You got to go to college, you got to get a good job, and you got to work a great career. So that's what I did. CPA at Deloitte my whole entire life, moving up the ranks at Deloitte into manager, to then quit my job cold turkey and lean into my passion. Call me crazy, mom and dad. And so all I was doing was basically posting good, valuable content on a daily basis. I think I made about $4,000 in the first month alone. In August of 2021 was one of the most crazy months of my life. So I'm gonna break the silence. It's been about 2 years since I quit my 9-to-5. I was a CPA at Deloitte and I worked there my entire life after college. So I wasn't entirely confident talking about my journey in and out of Deloitte, but now I am. It's been quite a bit and I feel the need to tell everybody. So to give you guys context is I am now running my full-time Budgetdog LLC business, but it wasn't always like that. And I didn't necessarily have plans to build my own business. In a sense, fell in my lap. So I'm gonna talk about how it started and how I got to where I'm at today. So growing up, the only thing I could think of was I get a good degree, I get a good job, and I work 40 years at my 9-to-5. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, and a lot of people enjoy their jobs, so this isn't a 9-to-5 hate week, but I wanna walk through exactly how my situation was. And one thing I knew is I didn't want to work at Deloitte my entire life. Now, I convinced myself early on I did, and that's what I'm gonna get into. My parents always told me, you gotta go to college, you gotta get a good job, and you gotta work a great career. So that's what I did. I went to college at the University of Louisville, and I graduated in 2014. I got my internship at Deloitte during school, and I worked there. And then I got my job offer right at the end of my internship, and I started there fresh in September 1st of 2015. And so I thought this was the path I was gonna go. I worked my way in the public space, I worked my way in the private space within Deloitte, so I had a lot of different clients, and I learned a ton of stuff, but I realized like really quickly, it wasn't really for me. And I knew that although my partner was really grooming me to take on his role down the line to become a partner, I just knew it wasn't in me. And my wife always said, you're never gonna work for somebody. But I always told myself, what is the other option I have? I was not an entrepreneur by default. It never came to me as like, hey, I'm gonna start my own business. But the real transition started occurring when I was 23. Unbeknownst to me, my wife and I were trying to get out of debt. And we were trying to build all these great financial habits. And as a CPA with my background, I actually was really good at what I did. And so therefore it translated into the personal finance game in a big way. And so while we were paying off a lot of debt, I started really getting into this, my wife and I included. So around 27 or 28 years old, I don't even remember the exact date, I started really getting into the personal finance game, like really getting into it. I was helping friends, I was helping family, I was getting a ton of good results, but I didn't have any product, I didn't have any service, I didn't even think about it like a business. I was just helping my friends and family using the resources, really raw resources that I had myself, just handing them to them, no teaching, just, hey, use these, use that, use this or whatever. And people were getting great results. People were paying off lots of debt. They were learning how to invest. They were, sitting at their insurances. They got their trust and will set up. They were focused on their taxes. They were doing all sorts of things, but I didn't realize how valuable that was to somebody. It was just in my nature to help other people doing what I was really good at doing. So at Deloitte, I had 5 weeks of PTO. And one of those weeks, I was working a construction job. And that construction job was a very intense, hard hat, drilling concrete with a sledgehammer and just knocking this whole entire church down. And that week, it was one Monday morning and my wife told me, you need to start an Instagram account and talk about personal finance. And I was like, you are crazy. So I didn't really know what she meant and I didn't really know how to position this because again, I was not a social media person. I did not have some big grand goal of starting my own business on social media. It just kind of happened like I said. So we were sitting there without much thought and she said, well, what's your name? I thought about it for a second and I looked down at my dog. I was like, we should marry the two concepts of finance and dogs. People love pets, right? And so that's the initial second when the word Budgetdog came to mind. It just clicked. It was like, I had no pre-planned ideas or marketing schemes or anything like that. It just happened. And so I started calling myself the Budgetdog, but I didn't post from my perspective. I posted from Nico, my dog's perspective, like legitimately my dog's perspective. The profile picture was actually Nico. It was a side profile picture. So if you've been following me for quite some time, you remember the story and how I presented all my content was puppy service announcement, PSA, dog type of style content with mixed personal finance. And I remember specifically, I did my first IG Live and I was sweating bullets and I was like so nervous. I don't know why, but I was. As a lot of people do get on IG Lives or public speaking or anything like that. And it was really nerve-wracking to get on there and start talking. But what I realized was on my couch in Northern Kentucky where I was living at the time, people connected so well. And that was the first time I showed my face and people were so emphatic, like, oh my God, like you're really finally talking to us. You actually know your stuff. Like they could just tell the second I started talking. I think I was talking about expense ratios at the time or investment fees or in taxes and things like that. And I was just hitting it on the head because it's what I do for a living and I know this stuff. And so I started talking about this stuff a lot more. I then took my professional photo and replaced Nico. He was out. He's actually below me right now. So then I started posting a lot of really good content from my perspective. And I think people started connecting the dots a little more than from a dog's perspective, believe it or not. So I started diving into Budgetdog content full time. But again, this was not a business and this was not profitable and I made $0 from it. I actually took free clients. I thought it was fun. That's what I like to do. I was helping people on the side. It got me away from my work environment at Deloitte, which was not really 9 to 5. It was more 5 to 9. 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. every day. And I just fell in love with the game. I fell in love with helping people. I love this stuff. I actually knew it inside and out. I could see things before other people saw things. And it was really helpful for a lot of my clients. A lot of my free clients early on told me, they said, wow, I just got so much value for free. And I was like, that's all I care about. So I started thinking, well, I can't really continue to do this. I started taking on a lot of people for free and I would literally book out my entire week. And so I thought for myself, I was like, I can't be doing this. It was tiring because there was a lot of clients talking to me in a lot of different situations, all those types of things. So I had to figure out a way to get my knowledge into something to then scale this and then actually eventually become profitable with it, because obviously people were willing to get the service or wanted the service and they needed the help. And I think the best businesses out there are the ones that you help your former self. And that's what I was helping. I was helping my former self, the person that was in debt, the person that didn't have investments, the person that wasn't 100% confident in their financial plan. And I knew I could do that and I could provide that service to a lot of different people at scale. Why not dive all into this and actually start to create a business around an Instagram account? When I first started, I really didn't know much more than to post an Instagram post once per day. That's about it. I didn't know the Instagram growth game, the social media algorithms, all the different platforms, the funnels, all the marketing behind it. I didn't know anything behind it. And so all I was doing was basically posting good, valuable content on a daily basis. One weird thing I have going for me is I'm very consistent in my nature, and anything I pursue, I will be consistent. So it was about 12 months in, and I realized I'm not making any dollars. I love what I'm doing, but this is kind of getting tiring. I'm helping a ton of people, I'm spending a ton of time, and I'm getting paid $0 for it. So I started to create different products, different services, and start to think through this. And the first person I came across was Chris Johnson. And I saw what he was doing and I was intrigued by the whole Wealth Squad concept. The other person I saw, which is also in Wealth Squad, is the Wealth Dad, Sean. And these two individuals inspired me to different levels I've never seen in myself before. What I was able to get from those individuals just from following them for free, following their content, talking to them, getting to know them, was inspiring as heck. And so what I did is I put all this together, I put all my knowledge together, and I wrote my first ebook. And that was Investing 101, Everything the Investor Needs to Know. I no longer sell that ebook. It's actually within my Budgetdog Academy, but at the time, that was my first profitable product. I released it. I think I made about $4,000 in the first month alone. So I don't remember exact profits, but I want to say it was $4,000. I think I sold it at $20 a pop. So you can do the math on how many copies I sold in that first month. And that right there blew my mind. I said, wow, I had that many people buy a $20 ebook, and the value that people took away from that and the results I was getting from that ebook alone were outstanding. And so I said, okay, I've got something here. I need to lean into this a little more. And this was around September of 2020, right in the height of COVID. And so everybody was home, everybody was on their phone, and I figured this was a huge opportunity in front of me. So I leaned in. And what I told myself is if I can create products, resources, services that generate what my 9 to 5 does for the next 12 months, I'm all in. And so I decided I wanted to quit my job if I was able to do that and prove that to myself. So September, I made the first $4,000, like I said. Starting in October, I started to match my 9 to 5 income. I was making around $86,000 a year at Deloitte, plus some bonus, roughly around $96,000 per year. So therefore, if I can make $8,000 a month for the next 12 months, I gave myself the ability to quit my 9 to 5. Call me crazy, mom and dad. CPA at Deloitte, my whole entire life, moving up the ranks at Deloitte into manager, all the way to eventually partner, to then quit my job cold turkey and lean in to my passion. Not many people would, one, do that, And number two, a lot of people on the outside thought I was absolutely crazy. They did not understand what this was. And remember the time period. So this was in COVID. Now the internet was around, Instagram was around, but an Instagram business was very far-fetched, especially for people I was talking to in my professional career. This was not a very widely accepted concept, and it was called crazy. But one thing I know is with my consistency, I believe in myself in a big way. If I see the end goal in mind, I will get it. I know I will, and that's what I did. After the month of September, I added my one-on-one service and I eclipsed my first $8,000 month, which was in line with my salary at Deloitte. Now, with the next 12 months, my goal was to match the 8,000. And what happened was a little different, and I'll share what actually happened. So for the next couple months, I started building out the business, and I met a really good business partner that helped me really scale my operations. And so I paid this individual a lot of money to help me scale my operations. I invested back into my business in a big way, while also maintaining income at or above my 9-to-5 income. And it was around May of 2021 when I got really serious. And during this period, we were also paying down our home and we had our first child on the way. My wife was still working her 9-to-5. We had our finances on lock because that's what I do for a living, so I better be speaking from experience. And I knew exactly how to go about this. And so what we did was take a calculated risk. And what we did was, assuming that we were gonna continue with profits from my business, as long as we could get this all the way to about September of 2021, the baby was coming, maternity leave was about 1 to 2 months after that, then take the leap of faith. And that was the initial goal. And we really mapped this out strategically, my wife and I, in around May of 2021. So May played out. I made at or above my 9-to-5. June played out, the same thing. July played out, the same thing. Halt, August. And August of 2021 was one of the most crazy months of my life. Early August of 2021, Juice, Chris's brother, reached out to me. He said, hey man, Chris is having a 30th birthday on a yacht out in California. It would be awesome if you could come out there. I was like, man, I got a 9-to-5. It was on a Tuesday. I was like, I can't make it, man. 3 days go by and my company contacts me and they say, are you posting from an account called Budgetdog? And I said, yeah, I am. What's wrong with that? They did not like that. They said they had no legitimate reasoning as to why I was not able to actually post from the account, but they did say, I have two options. I could stop posting and continue to work for them, or I'd have to go. I looked, this conversation went on for about 3 days with upper management. Talked to my parents, talked to my family, talked to Aaron, and I came to the conclusion that I was going to take the leap of faith. I didn't quite get to the 12 months I anticipated. I was shy of about 2 months and I had about 10 months under my belt of consistent income at or above my 9-to-5. But one thing I knew was if I took that leap of faith, I can almost guarantee that I would be more successful. And the second I quit, I contacted Juice and I told him I'm on my way. I booked my flight out to California. I got on the yacht with the whole Well Squad crew and Chris's friends and family, and we had a great time. And that was the high. We got back from that yacht party and we paid off our house. We had $9,000 remaining on our house. My wife and I went to the bank and we wrote a check and we paid it off in that same week. So in the same week, I quit my job, I paid off my house, and I went out to a 30th birthday on a yacht. Pretty crazy. Not what I expected, but I look back and say, why did I get to that point? How was I able to pay off my house? You know, you don't just have a house paid off. That was a process I was doing along the way for years before this, years, as well as building my business. So everyone saw the glitz and glam of paying off my house, quitting my job, partying on a yacht, but they didn't understand the full story that this was a decade plus of work to get to this point. And it's the ever so fun story of the overnight success. This took a lot of work and it was really hard to get to. But the real work became right after. I got back and I had a child 3 weeks out. So we had to make sure we were prepared as parents to make sure that the business was operating, I was able to work, and my wife was able to work, and we had to take care of a new baby. So we had Logan and the business was flourishing, but I will tell you this, it did not feel as if such. When you lose a 9-to-5 paycheck, the conditioning that I had in my mind was so crazy that I even saw and realized it, but also couldn't get past the emotions of having that consistent paycheck, especially with a new child on the way. So while the business was actually doing way better than my old 9-to-5, plus my wife's income more than took care of us, there was anxiety from basically September all the way to November of that 2021 year that was super high that I cannot explain. But I always think that things work out for a reason. And I think it conditioned me to take on more responsibility for what was to come. And so during this period, I was a stay-at-home dad. I also was running my own business. My daughter was born completely healthy, but then January 29th of 2022 came and she had her first seizure. Now, I was a stay-at-home dad. My wife was working a full-time job, and now we found out our baby had her first seizure, but we didn't know what it was. And the doctors kind of warned us that this was a very normal thing, happens to a lot of babies, doesn't mean anything crazy. Well, come to find out, about a month later, after a few more seizures, we found out she had Dravet syndrome. And this isn't a sob story because that's not how we roll. But one thing I realized was I gotta get Erin out of her 9 to 5 so that I can focus on the business and that she can take care of Logan full time, because her assistance needed for someone with special needs is super high, more than obviously the regular baby. So from February 1st of 2022 until October 1st of 2022, we were in a dead sprint to do everything humanly possible to now take my wife out of the same position that I was in just a couple months before with leaving her 9 to 5. During that time period, we found out that we had to move to Dallas, Texas to make sure that Logan had the best treatment, which was in Fort Worth at Cook Children's. So we had to make a massive transition. Not only did I just quit my 9 to 5, experience really high anxiety, and then also get diagnosed with Dravet syndrome, but also have to get my wife out of her 9 to 5. So we got to the point in October of 2022 where my wife was comfortable to leave her 9 to 5. She said adios, and then 1 month later, we bought a house in Dallas, Texas. And throughout this whole time, you have to realize I was building a new business and still am building a new business. I am a baby and an infant in the game, and I'm trying to learn a ton in this process. So in early 2023, we made the move to Texas, and here we are today, still operating from the same place of building the business. My wife is staying home with Logan, but now we have number 2 on the way, and she's going to be here shortly. And so as we build this business, I want everybody to know out there, this does not come easy. Those that talk about quitting their 9 to 5 or just cold turkeying it have to realize what we did in order to get here and the preparation it took to make sure that we could easily quit our 9 to 5s, both of us in fact, over time. But there are pros and cons with everything, as you know, so I don't want to sit here and say entrepreneurship is the only way. Entrepreneurship has provided us things that I never knew were possible, and I absolutely love what I do, and I highly recommend to chase your passion, but at the same time, realize what that comes with. You have to level up in order to get there. And if you have the same mindset that you do currently, you're gonna have to adapt if you want to transition all the way out of the 9 to 5 and into provider mode with a full-time business. There are still days that you'll have doubts. There are still days that you'll question things. That's part of the process, and you have to be willing to accept that during this transition phase. So the moral of the story is that switching from my 9 to 5 was not easy, and it still isn't at all times. But I want somebody out there listening to this to realize what comes with it and make a calculated risk. Do not take a cold turkey YOLO type of move and just quit your 9 to 5 without any plan. Make sure you have your financials in order, you have a good plan for the business itself, and you can actually attack that plan once you quit that 9 to 5. And if you can do that, I highly recommend to take that leap of faith, especially if you're early on in life. You live one life, you're gonna regret if you don't. And lastly, what I wanna say is, one thing I had in my back pocket the whole time is I am a CPA, I do have marketability, and I could go back to the corporate 9 to 5 if I were to take that leap of faith and fall on my face. But we made sure everything was lined up. We had profits coming in from the business that were at or above the 9 to 5. Our financials were taken care of. We had 0 debt, not even our mortgage. My wife's income could pay the bills. Anything over and above is basically gravy for our situation. And that's why I took that leap of faith. Like I said, I was not sitting here with a huge master plan from the age of 5 to run my own business. It kind of fell in my lap because I loved it and I created this out of that. But I hope this inspires somebody today, guys. And if you guys have any questions about the process I went through, the journey I went through to get to this spot, please post in the comments below and I will make sure I respond to those ASAP, because I know a lot of people have this on their mind and there's a lot of things that went into it mentally to make sure I could actually do this. Anyways, guys, I will see you next Monday for the next video.